September 19th meeting. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the minute.
Motion with a second. That is seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Cheryl Bartlett is not here, so let's see if there's any highlights on the financial statement.
This is how we closed out the year, I think. This is our September the 30th. So.
Okay. Oh, it is. Good. And looks like our total income was at 94%, budget 95, expenses at 95.5.
Here she is.
Close. Cheryl, is there anything you'd like to highlight off of our financials?
This is end of the year.
End of the year.
We didn't have to pull from reserves.
I think that's a good takeaway.
That's great.
I mean, that was in the budget to do that, and we didn't have to. Now,
That's fantastic.
That's not to say we don't have to next month, but
Right.
Let's just enjoy this at the time.
Yeah.
we went a whole year without having
Relish in this. Does anyone have any questions about the financials?
questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay. No questions, we'll move on to discussion items. Ms. Morgan.
We received news week before last that the annual Public Queens Girlfriends Bash relocated to Jefferson. There was a dispute of sorts between the organizing group and the Fredonia. Public Queens feels as if they were double booked. The fact of the matter is they never signed a contract, so they weren't booked to begin with. So you can't be double booked if you were never officially booked. I think what it amounts to is some miscommunication, and honestly and unbiasedly, not on the part of the Fredonia. I think the Fredonia went above and beyond. They held the room for 7 months beyond when they were supposed to sign the contract. And, at the end of the day, everybody has to do business. And so it doesn't matter if you're a nice person or we're really sure that you're going to be here. The Fredonia deserves the right to be able to secure business and to do matters the way that they wish to. The unfortunate thing about it is the narrative that is being pushed out there in the public on behalf of the Public Queens. They are letting their people know that it's through no fault of their own. They're taking zero accountability in any of this. It's the Fredonia. They double booked. The Fredonia has responded with professionalism and grace that we all have come to expect from them. So, but the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, it was an unsigned contract. They did not let us know that they were relocating. We had to dive in and investigate on our own and find out that they were taking it back to Jefferson. So it's unfortunate, but it's really not going to be a deal breaker for us. We would have loved to have them back. They were a fun group. They did have an economic impact. I would not be telling the truth to tell you they didn't. But, it is what it is. At the end of the day, you can't organize an event for a group, so they have to do that. So, anyway, so that was unfortunate. Any questions about that?
Would you say that we haven't burned any bridges, though, if they ever wanted to look at coming back?
No. If anything, you should be very proud of your CVB staff. Joanna probably worked closest with them and the longest with them in servicing them as a group and just guiding them through the whole process.
I've seen that in action.
Yeah, she performed admirably when a lesser person could have really gotten their feelings hurt and handled it a lot differently. But she was very gracious and very kind and just helped them through the process of getting what was left of their collateral that they had left here and wishing them well in their future endeavors. And And honestly, I think, and this is purely my speculation, but I think that we didn't fall to our knees and beg them and just bemoan the fact that they're leaving us. I think they didn't, that was the reaction they were expecting and wanting, and because they didn't get that, it kind of fueled the, anyway, but nothing we can do. We can't make people's decisions. We can't sign contracts for them, and we just have to pick up and move on. And but we do support them, wish them the best. It was going to be their 19th year, so they've had 19 years of planning and establishing and signing contracts with people. So I'm not sure where it ran off the rails, but it did, and we wish them well. We had a second person come out and bid for our technology solution. I have not gotten back his results yet, but he did come out. It was the gentleman that Dr. Jack referenced. For the life of me, I can't remember his name right now, but I have his business card upstairs. But he came around and looked around. He's supposed to be getting back to me with another solution. I'm going to reach out to Scott Waller and have them come up with our third bid. And so by the next meeting, we should have the 3 bids to look at so that we can go ahead and make a final decision on technology. Suggestion for the first floor boardroom. I'm going to table that because I don't want to talk about it. It's not going anywhere. We're going to decorate it for Christmas, and it's going to be really pretty. Update on the pressed penny machine. The designs have all been finalized. They look really great. We sent off the check on Monday, and when they get the check, it'll be 7 to 10 business days before it marches in. So we're super excited. We're going to plan a big media event around it. I've asked the mayor if she's available. She'll come in and do the first inaugural crank of the penny. Probably making it more of a big deal than it is, but I'm really excited. So that's where that is. And then last for the items for discussion, many of you know, some of you might not know, in the state of Texas there are driving trails. And the driving trail that runs through Nacogdoches in this area is the Forest Trail region. And I am incoming president for that group. Wanda is a past staff member of it, and local Marty Prince is the current executive director for the region. She currently is officing across the street in City Hall, and that is not really conducive to what it is that she's doing because it is still very much about tourism. More importantly, it's about heritage tourism, which is crucial to us. It is what we hang our hat on. It occurred to me, and is completely my idea, and I approached Marty with it. One of the things that I don't want to say don't like, but that I wish were different in this basement area, we have a lot of unused space that is just holding stuff. And without getting too crunchy, it's just not a good energy if it's just holding things. So we've got this, I call it the doctor's office, I don't know why, but I approached Marty with the concept of possibly having her office out of the CVB. The forest trail is fully funded all on its own. We wouldn't incur any additional costs. The lights are going to be on anyway. Marty has worked for the CVB before, and she offered us not only, and she can speak to it as well, she's in the audience, a slight reduction in our membership rates in return in exchange for being able to office out of here, as well as, should we need her, if it came to it, she could pull a shift, upstairs at the front desk.
How about yes?
If it can.
That sounds like a win.
Absolutely, yes.
And then it's also it's energy down here. It's another face down here. Cheryl won't have to be down here like a punished child by herself. We've already got exciting things going on in the workshop back there with our film studio, and I just think it says something if there's a human touch and energy down here when we're sending people down here to watch the video and look at the exhibit. So looking for a motion from the board to, and I guess I should say that this would be contingent upon just Marty's. This wouldn't be a forever solution. So as long as Marty is executive director of the Forest Trail, she could office out of here. The next executive director would need to supply his or her own office structure or what have you. So, on a long term.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Welcome, Marty.
Y'all aren't gonna have any fun.
I'm so excited. The office was originally in this building, so it was shed.
Really?
Yes. So we're returning to our roots.
Full circle.
I like that.
Excellent.
And you would object to talking to people, would you?
No, actually, I was up here recently, and what was supposed to be an hour meeting ended up being about 4 hours. But as people walked in, I had a reason to talk to them and speak with Sherry, so it was great.
And all of us, I could just see you being able to share with some folks that are exploring the area.
It was really fun. I
Nice
really
center.
enjoyed it.
And while city offices were nice, they were nice. It just isn't the face of tourism, and that's really, fits this so much better.
When we had financial issues, we downsized our staff, so then we downsized all of the second office into one office, and so there's no room for Marty in the office. And I'm a little bad about that, but that's where we are. This is excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We win-win. It's a wonderful thing. It's in Mono, marketing.
Just a few things you may have noticed in the reports that we put together this time. We are now reporting differently based on our new set of metrics that have gone into this year's marketing plan. So our reports look a little bit differently, but in a good way, because we're really trying to measure very strongly what we're looking at so that we can compare as we go. When you look at mine, you will see, it's under the marketing report, I've got the knack for that badge at the top. So what I'm going to do every month is just provide the breakdown of, unique web visitors, give you the overview of all of the big things that's happening under marketing. You can see all the stats from our social media platforms, and really that'll be listed in an attempt to just really monitor it and an attempt to continue to grow and to grow engagement as well. So you can see those numbers there. I wanted to pass around, outside of the report, this is our recent Texas monthly ad. So this is, do you like your music live and up close? We've got a knack for that. So we're really proud and excited about this one. I know we shared it on social media and a lot of community members were really excited. So we're always so happy to see that. But this one highlights Benedict Creek Hall, and this specifically when Casey Musgraves was there. And so this is out now and we're very excited. So I'm going to pass this around for you all to look at. There you are. Okay. One thing that I've been working on specifically is our barn quilt trail. We now have more than 120 quilts registered, and because of that, we felt the need to create some zones. We have people coming into the visitor center looking at our big map of barn quilts, and it's just too big with too many to be able to see on a paper map, which is what many of our visitors want to see, especially kind of the older generation. They want their paper map as opposed to the Google Maps, which is totally understandable. So we've created 3 zones of barn quilts. So we now have 3 maps that are zoomed in on different parts of the city so that people can more easily travel that trail. And we think it's going to help people be able to navigate. We had one couple come in recently, and they were traveling the barn quilt trail, and they went to a specific house, and the residents came out and greeted her because they were so happy somebody was there to see the barn quilt, and they enjoyed it so much that they gave her one that they had created. And she had such a good experience that she wrote an email to Pauline Patterson, who's headed up this experience, and Pauline shared it with us. And the couple wanted to send a handwritten thank you because they couldn't believe the hospitality that they experienced when they traveled that Barnfield Trail. So people are starting to hear about it, and they're starting to come here specifically. And so this is a new rack card also. If you're searching for Barnfields, we've got a knack for that. It's one more knack we have. So these are upstairs also, and we're also mailing these out now. I had one travel information center specifically request rack cards highlighting the Barnfield Trail. So it's just one more thing that we have to offer, and it's growing. So that's good.
I have a question and a comment.
Yes.
In my volunteer time, I visited with people that weren't here for the Barnfield Trail, but when you show them, I mean, you see their reaction.
Right.
They're fascinated.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So it's certainly a great item for marketing. Do you have those available that anyone could take a stack back to their lobby?
Yes, I sure do. I've got them upstairs. I can get you some, and I've got a box in my office.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And by breaking them down in zones, we talked about it, because obviously in some zones you're going to have more than others. I mean, the one concentrated in the middle, for sure. But on our end, on my end, we're going to have an itinerary accompany it. So if they do one zone, it takes all day, and they can spend the night and do another zone.
Yeah.
So
Are you going to have one on the lake so we can paddle in with it?
that's coming up in my report.
And the big project that I'm working on is just looking at the Nine Flags Christmas Festival. I'm trying to round up all of the dates of the many events that fall underneath that umbrella. We've got all that we need basically to create a really good schedule, and so we're finishing up those rack cards and posters now so we can get them out. We already have we have a knack for an old-fashioned Christmas. We've got that ad finished, and that will be in Texas highways in the very near future, so we're trying to promote that and get people here for our Christmas season. Okay, questions for me about anything?
Any questions on our marketing?
Okay.
It's fantastic, and I got to say, this the knack for that, it's spreading throughout the region, really, because I hear it starting to be picked up by everybody.
We've had requests for T-shirts. We've had, it's really huge. Hancock really knocked it out of the park with that.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you very much. All right, Joanna, what you got for us?
Well, I've got the typical, reports, but one of the things that Sherry had asked me to do was specifically talk about this last weekend's 300-year plants, the Jeff App group that came in, the Historical Society of Southern Gardens. And I don't know how it was for the hotel. I mean, I broke that out. If you want to look at the event impact calculator. So I called the hotel, they gave me a pickup. It wasn't as strong. Like if you look at my lead summary page, that just gives you everybody that currently we have on the books. That's not everyone, and that has to do with user over here. But it gives you an overview of who's coming. But once we got the pickup report, that 98,000 of the economic impact dropped down to 81. It wasn't as large as I expected, because the cool thing about this reporting in speaking with Simple View, it does take into account the kind of people that are coming. So they were all over the place. I had so many of those people over here in the building. I'm sure Mike did too. Mike, were you here that weekend? And they just spent a lot of time. They had a lot of time either to bust out of their meetings. I shouldn't say that. But they were downtown quite a bit, spending quite a bit of money. So that was a wonderful event. And if you guys do have any questions, I may not be able to answer it in a moment, but I promise you I go over these every time to best understand why the numbers are the way they are. And a lot of it is algorithms that are put in place by Simple View that give us the numbers as closely as possible. It's really interesting. So they're never the same, so we're not out of our mind. It has to do with the input, the impact of each group, and the kind of group they are. It's very interesting. So that's that. And Jack's not here, but I've got him wrestled into a project with me. One of the things we really want to hone in on is our cars, antique cars in the various groups. And so I'll put together a few good men and women, which is basically 4, and then myself, one of them being Jack Nelson, Buddy Himes, Gary Stanley, and then our recent Texas tour group, Nicole Gambulus, and she's out of the Fort Worth area, happens to be a marketer. She's very good. She loved it here, and she wants to help support us bring more people here. So the intent behind that is to build a list. We don't have like a designated lead gen on that, but these people are like any other group. They know each other. They like putting together these weekend getaways. So what we're going to do is aggressively market for our spring and fall season. And I mean, just off the top, Model A, Mustang, Porsche, Street Rod, Corvette. These are just a couple of the names that came out of 2 conversations from these 2 people that they already know. And we're talking Houston, Dallas, the region that would come here for those time periods. Again, similar to the barn quilt, we are going to do e-blasts that not only say, hey, come and stay. We want to entice them with the things to do once they get here. So maybe they'll be around at the hotel in the parking lot. Maybe they'll be here. But more importantly, what we're looking at is the tours that they go and hang out at the vineyard. And then, or we've got a new group, UDUGs, who I call, that Kelly introduced me to. They have this fabulous new facility out in Douglas, and 7th Street Cafe, and Thralls, and just all these neat places. Applebee Sands, their store out there, where they're taking off and visiting those places because of the beautiful drives that there are. And if we can entice them to do a local, like we did with the tour of Texas, where they are parked somewhere, and the public can then come, and like we did there, we had donuts and coffee, and they get to vote on their favorites and things like that. And that's how we can kind of get the synergy of these local people that are helping me, as well as the outside, but really share that love and get more and more in those groups and use our place as a destination. That's an exciting part for me. I too have been asked to be a part of something on the El Camino Real marketing group. They came 2 weeks ago and presented to our downtown merchant group, which was, I thought, a wonderful presentation. We had the Nacogdoches executive director here, and we also had the Toledo Bend executive director here. They presented to share how we could do more hub and spoke, and 21 is our natural place. They have a lot of fishing over there on their neck of the woods. What else did we talk about doing?
The Sail on the Trail, participating in that.
The Sail on the Trail and how that works.
They provided us some really great economic impact numbers on just the sheer quantity of people that they have in those communities that have banded together. And they do refer people to us. We're just not really reciprocating that as well and extending it. So we really do need to play nicely and participate in that because we can really stand to benefit.
Yeah, and they're creating something with motorcycles. And to me, again, that's a beautiful trail to do something with motorcycles. I think it'd be a great 150 as far as bike. We have lots of possibilities with them because they too value the historian and it's constantly in their game when they're promoting to tourists. And a lot of their tourists are from Houston. That's their number one draw. So they start over there and can make their way back this way home. So it could be a triangle. But other than that, we are just totally unrelated, doing something fun for homecoming. I'm so excited. For the first time, we're participating in the decorations. We have a historic building, so we're doing something a little different. We are, should I go into detail? I don't want to steal our secret.
They'll steal it.
But anyway, actually Sarah O'Brien posted something on Facebook, and it's basically photo opportunities where we can again use our badge. We've got an app for that. It's 4 old doors that are freestanding, bracketed with the opening in them, so you can take photos behind it. But we will place one in the gardens. We've got an app for that, gardens, Capitol. We can have one on the trails. We can have, we can move them, is my point. For homecoming, we're just going to utilize it first for the different decades, deck them out. But moving forward, then we'll have them wrapped to continue promoting we've got an app for that.
Little selfie stations.
Yeah. So So we'll get those today. So that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Oh, fantastic. We got a great fall going. We're going to roll right into,
Oh, one other thing I gotta brag about too, real quick, since y'all paid for it. Nolan, we had a solid 1,500 emails that we are sending out today. The e-blast.
Email recipients,
The email recipients, that is, we are doing a touch campaign for every month. Wanda, with her phenomenal writing that she provided me, I'm using some of that content. Our first e-blast will be the positioning of our history, our historic, charm, and beautiful, the three things we identified. And then we will continue as we add emails to, that will only get larger each month. And as we call through it, that will become my call list, of which will be on Wednesdays, which is my Win-Win Wednesday.
And we're on that email blast list, correct?
If
I can make sure.
Yeah, and you'll see the language, it's phenomenal.
I see it.
Yeah, it's really good.
thank you very much, Joanne. Ms. Moore, we'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Stephanie and Joanna spoke to the difference in reporting metrics. We're still trying to figure it out. We have a different marketing plan moving forward. We're trying to, the information that you got today, a lot of it was still from the tying up the last fiscal year. I felt like our meetings were moving towards just a big regurgitation of every single thing that they were doing, almost like in a justifying our existence kind of way. And I think probably a lot of important information got lost just in the sheer quantity of information that you were receiving. So what we're trying to do, and there's going to be hits and misses, so it's going to depend upon your input. We're trying to really hone down and be very specific in the metrics that you're measuring, as Stephanie said, so that we can compare. It gives us a touchstone and a benchmark to know where we're growing. And we've tried to identify areas that we want to see growth in, so that we can constantly be in a state of monitoring and evaluating and then readjusting as necessary, so that we can maintain some fluidity, that we can change things where we feel like we need to change them. But if we ever reach a point where you're not receiving some information as a board member that you feel is important, please just let me know. And you're not receiving it for any specific reason. It's just we need to know what you want. And we also wanted to leave some room for board to ask questions of staff as well. So instead of just providing you everything, we want to know what's important to you. And it's in that question and answer dialoguing process that I felt like we could achieve that. So that's sort of the mindset behind the switch up in reporting. Last night, we took part in hosting a barbecue welcome dinner for a Japanese delegation. There were 5 dignitaries from Japan that were part of the initial agreement between Stephen F. Austin, the city, and Nacogdoches ISD to have our partner cities in Japan, Amami, and I can't remember the name of the other one. But we had about 125 people. It included the current exchange students in the middle schools, as well as their host families, and anybody else in the community that had ever, in the 25-year history, taken part or been touched in somehow by that sisterhood arrangement. It was a really fun evening. I have to brag on 2 people in the room. First is Joanna. I don't know how she does what she does, and I choose to maintain plausible deniability. I'm assuming there's a photo file. I don't know. I just write the thank you notes at the end. But she was amazing, and I was out for a conference last week, and she completely picked up the ball and ran with it. So many, many thanks and kudos and praise to Joanna. I truly am not worthy. So she is amazing. No news to anybody. And the other is Mr. Chris Hancock. He and his friend Rodney, is that right? They stepped up at the last minute. We had a cancellation with our cooker for the barbecue, and he stepped in and they cooked and served, and it was delicious and gracious. And Chris's daughter was sharing with me that they were part of this Japanese exchange family early on in the beginning phases before Nacogdoches was sending students over. We were just receiving. students from Japan, so it really was kind of a full circle moment. So thank you all, and I think it just really, the success of last night speaks to one of the things that I reiterate over and over again that is just so quintessentially Nacogdoches and what I think explains our success, and that is that sense of community and collaboration. And you see it everywhere you go if you look for it, and last night was just a prime shining example. And Judy McDonald was so proud of the showing, and Mayor Brophy. So the CVB looked really great, and the community looked really great. So thank you. Thank you. And they're still in town, so if you see them, be nice. Like you wouldn't. Okay. Stephanie represented us at the State Fair of Texas for Destination Days, and she did a great job. Got some good leads on that. Last week, I was at Texas Municipal League Annual Conference and rode up there and drove back with Mayor Brophy, and she had not, she didn't understand sort of the wowness of that opportunity. So she's already super excited for next year. And she wants to go as well and be the mayor in the booth and help with our destination days. We got a great weekend this year. It was Texas OU weekend, so a lot of traffic was there. And Alicia Bryant and Pam Fitch with Daddy Seasonings were coincidentally tasting in the Food and Fiber Pavilion as well. So there were several little touchstone moments for Nacogdoches during that moment. So that's a win for everybody. I will be delivering our final wrap-up CVB report to City Council the first part of December. And the reason it is so late is we have to wait for the STAR report, and that won't come in until the middle of November. And that's just the next available City Council meeting is that first one in December. So that is to be looked forward to. It will be lots of stuff. I've written things down that I don't even know. Stephanie has begun talks and has secured a contract with George Hooker. We'll be doing a new video, promotional video. The deliverable on that will be in the spring, so we're excited about that. We have also secured, last year Nacogdoches took part in a coffee table book from Signature Boutique Books, and it was Spectacular Weekend Getaways. I believe it was the Fredonia specifically, and I think Nacogdoches maybe had a small article. I had worked with them previously in Conroe as well, so the publisher reached out to me first. She is doing a new book this year, and it's Gulf Coast Vacations, and Texas has one of the chapters, only 30 spreads for Texas, and she reached out to us to see if we would want that double spread, and so I said yes. And we're going to feature five destinations, and I wanted to talk to you because they want to talk to you. So we're really excited. It's a beautiful book. I have a copy of last year's book upstairs in my office. It's a quality, it really is a quality publication. You can go to the Fredonia lobby. They've got last year's book out there as well. And Ricky Lee Willoughby was telling me that she and her family were skiing, I want to say in Utah, and there was one of those books. They picked it up in the cabin that they were renting. She was like, oh my gosh. So it really is well distributed, and so we're going to have a placement in it, as well as we'll be able to sell it in our gift shop as well. It is. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do that now. In front of you, you've got a chart. Our Smith travel report that gives us our occupancy hasn't come in yet, and I just don't feel like I'm doing my job if I haven't shown you a squiggle or something. So, in front of you is, we subscribe to a service, it's a media monitoring service called Meltwater, and it goes out and it scrubs online presence for any mention of things that we've told it to look for. So we have Nacogdoches tourism, we've got a bunch of different things, and we can change those up. But what you're looking at is one of the reporting metrics, and it's the sentiment score for Nacogdoches. And I thought it would be fun just to briefly, this is starting from October 1 to today, and you can see, 0 is sort of our midline, you see a big dip on October the 8th. Does anybody have a guess as to what that might have been? When, for whatever reason, sentiments in the general public might have been a little lower about Nacogdoches. So either angry, sad.
Monday.
Columbus Day, the police officer.
Yeah, it's the deputy's funeral. So we can click on these points of all the articles that attributed to that sentimental factor. And so all the articles that came up were, it was the announcement of the funeral date for the deputy that passed away. And then we see an increase. So we recover and we go back to our midline, and then we come up and we've got 2 days that are high. That first one, nobody would be able to guess, but it was the announcement of Stoner's Pizza signing their agreement here in Nacogdoches.
A high point.
I like it. And then right next to it is we did a media buy in the Light and Champion, and they published their fall festival guide, and that came out. And so you can see, not to be outshone, but our marketing efforts in the Light and Champion. Now you see another big loss down there on October the 13th. What do you think that might be attributed to?
That's if they play in University of Central Arkansas.
And losing, yeah. Exactly. And then one last high point, and that is SFA's Dance Festival. So I show you all this just because, again, I felt like I needed to show you a squiggle or something. But when we look at ourselves as a marketers for the city, there's a lot of different entities that come into play with that visceral feeling that people get when they hear that word Nacogdoches, when they hear the brand Nacogdoches. So nobody operates inside of a vacuum. What they're doing at SFA matters to us. What they're doing in the community, what's happening in the community matters to us. Businesses and economic development, it is all interrelated, and this was just sort of a really interesting thing for the proverbial gee whiz bag. So.
And this is overall social media outlets?
Yeah, it's social media as well as online newspapers, magazines, blogs. Yeah. Any communication that's online. So I thought that was pretty neat. And then lastly, just on a personal, next to lastly, maybe also personally, Joanna sealed a deal with Nine Flags Roasters. She did go out and speak to all of the coffee shops in the area. Nine Flags was the only one that came back affirmative, so they are now the official sponsor of our coffee here in the Visitor Center, and we are helping them cross-promote. So visitors can come in and can say, have a sign up that says, today you're drinking Papua New Guinea. If you like it, head on down to East Main to Nine Flags Coffee Roasters and buy some of your own to take home with you. That has been incredibly beneficial to them. They've already had some walk-in visitors because of that, so we're happy. In response to that, we are branding some coffee sleeves. 8-ounce coffee cups will be plain, and then the coffee sleeves will be branded, and the coffee sleeves will have our badge on the front. We have a knack for that, and then on the back, one of 20 fun facts about Nacogdoches. So whenever anybody has a takeaway coffee cup, they'll also have a little piece of history as well. So those are in the works. They should be here next week. And really super cheap and affordable, fun way to do, and the company's name is Leave a Message. So I couldn't not order from them with a name like that. Almost a year ago today, wearing the same dress, I interviewed for this position here. And if you had asked me a year and a week ago if I would ever be living in Nacogdoches and serving this community, I probably would have said no, never in my wildest dreams, because surely they could do better than this schmo. But you entrusted me, and I've never looked back and embraced it. And I didn't start until December the 18th, but the trust that you placed in me with extending the job offer to me is not lost on me. So thanks.
Well, we made a fantastic decision.
Yeah, I've never looked back either, except for to say, I can't believe we made such a great decision.
Well, thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome. We're blessed to have you. Thank you very much for what you've done. Mike Bay, what's going on in your world? What's happening?
Well, I just have a little thing in the packet about I like to show people that came in and where they're from, and it lists some of the things that we hosted here, some of the meetings that we host here. So our visitor center is used a lot, and we couple from the Netherlands in yesterday afternoon. It's just amazing, you know. I sent them over to Fredonia, they wanted a place to stay. So it's fun to talk with everybody. So it's just kind of self-explanatory.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. With that, our next meeting is very close to Thanksgiving. If we were to have it as we usually do, it would be on the 21st, which is the day before Thanksgiving. If we think we need to move that to perhaps the next week, or where's the feeling on that? I mean,
I say that, yes.
Yeah.
I think that
probably the 28th.
I could do 14th or 28th. Do you think that we want to build
Up
up?
or back? Probably, well, we've got then the next week we would have the city council meeting. The 14th.
I can do the 28th, but not the 14th.
Do we have anything for, are we going to be needing to make any big decisions before the Christmas parade or anything?
I don't think we have.
Okay,
Is 28th good then?
that works for me.
All right. Is there any other questions? Anybody have anything else they'd like to share or? No. Good. There will be no other business, and designate the next meeting at 8:30 a.m. on the 28th of November. And no other business, this meeting's adjourned. Awesome. Good stuff going on. Great.